Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Ronka and I love to talk about travel, career, and general living tips. If that sounds like your type of thing, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel and share it with others. So in today's video, I will be sharing some of the travel lessons I've learned the hard way. Now, of course, like I said, these are travel lessons that I've learned the hard way, so I might still be a little touchy about some of them, but I wanted to share them because hopefully if I've learned them the hard way and I share them with you, you never have to experience it. So the very first lesson I actually want to touch on is one that I have probably repeated in several of my videos, but it is to travel with a carry-on whenever possible. I am definitely one of those people that tend to overpack. And I might not overpack in terms of like clothes, but I just feel like I need so much stuff with me to make me feel as comfortable as I do at home. And I already, for those who travel with me, I already travel with like wipes, alcohol spray, you know, just some like general like cleaning slash, I don't know what else to call them, cleaning supplies. And so because of that already takes up space of what else I actually want to take. And then, you know, I have like the stuff that I want to take, and then maybe I want to take like a specific type of lotion. Maybe I want to take a specific type of, you know, whatever. So I tend to overpack, and I've had to learn this the hard way to travel with the carry-on. Recently, you know, we had a flight that we were trying to catch, and truth be told, there are other reasons why it kind of worked out the way it did. But by the time that we were checking in, even though we had arrived to the airport with more than enough time, we weren't able to actually check in for our flight because we needed to check in bags. If we had carry-on bags, we would have been able to check in, make our flight. It wouldn't have been an issue. But because we had bags that required checking in, you know, like the traditional suitcase, we were not able to check in. So that was definitely a painful lesson because that means that we had to wait a whole extra day before we finally got to our destination, which sucked. But as I said, that was really a lesson that I learned about traveling with the carry-on whenever possible. Now, of course, if you're traveling like long distance, or you're traveling for a long time, or maybe you're traveling with like a whole family, I know it's a little bit harder to do that. But even if you can't travel with the carry-on, like I mentioned in some of my other videos, do try to make sure that the bulk or the most important things that you need are within your carry-on or personal item. My next tip is to confirm the details. This probably sounds so silly, but you need to confirm the details when you are traveling. And when I say confirm the details, I mean confirm the flight time, confirm the airport, confirm the gate, confirm the hotel, like confirm all the details as much as you can. I remember once when I was flying to Toronto, and at this time I worked in DC proper, and so I thought that I booked my ticket to leave from a particular airport in DC. Now, this was the most sensible airport to leave from because, once again, I worked in DC. I could just hop on the train, take the train over. And I think it was not until maybe like a day before or a few days before my trip that I realized I actually had booked my ticket out of a different airport. When I booked the ticket is the first time I actually should have double checked to make sure that I booked it out of the correct airport. But then also I actually should have checked ahead of time because, you know, I had to go into work that day, and so I needed to coordinate myself. And the time that I needed to leave was obviously going to change now that I realized I booked it to a totally different airport. So it is important to make sure that you try to confirm the details. Had I not even checked the day before and just figured, oh, let me check in the day of, only God knows if I would have made that flight. Like, honestly, only God knows. So when you are booking travel, when you're booking hotels, whatever it is, try to double check the details to make sure that you're booking things the right way. And this is especially important if you are booking on maybe a website where it's in a different country and the way that they might write their dates is different than how we write the dates in the US, or is different than how, you know, they write the dates in whatever country you're from. So just make sure that you are double checking those things to make sure that you have the right dates, that you have the right locations, and whatever other details you need to check. The third lesson that I have learned is to build in extra time. So back to the same Toronto trip. I landed in, I think, Toronto Pearson Airport, and I was supposed to take a bus to the Niagara Falls to go meet up with my friend who was driving from like Michigan. And, you know, I think when we landed early, but because we landed early, the gate wasn't ready. Then the way the airport was set up, I think where we landed, we would have to wait for some planes to cross. So by the time we got off the plane, it was like we had landed later than we were supposed to. This was an airport I'd never been in, was not familiar with. And I just remember literally running through the airport. Mind you, I just landed. Most people don't run after they've landed. But I was running through the airport because I had to run to catch an Uber. I even had to beg the Uber driver, like, look, I have this bus, and if I miss this bus, I don't know when the next one is coming. This Uber driver was doing Speedy Gonzalez for me to make sure that I made this bus. And in theory, it worked out well. You know, everything was fine. I got on the bus, but I definitely should have built in extra time because realistically, especially with air travel or any sort of travel, you really never know if there can be traffic. You never know if, you know, something will happen, weather. So there's a lot of things that you sometimes need to try to account for. And it makes sense to build in buffer time. So try to plan yourself so that in case something happens, you either have time to make an alternative plan or you'll still be okay with your original plan. The next travel lesson I would say I've learned is to be aware of any changes. And so this is particularly useful when you're traveling by train, by bus, by plane, really if you're traveling by any mode of transportation where there are a lot of you know, buses or trains or whatever it is at that one location. You know, oftentimes things might come in late because of a delay, so make sure you keep track of the time. But then you also want to be mindful if there's like any gate changes. And so in most airports and terminals, they might have like an arrivals and departures board, which will have that information for you. Another option is if you have like the app for maybe the airline or the train, sometimes they might send you notifications through there. Some airlines and trains might also send you text notifications, so you don't have to even really keep track of it per se. But whatever you can do to keep track of it, even if it's going on the website of the airport, whatever you can do to keep track of it, please do, okay? Because there's nothing worse than actually being in the airport or the terminal on time and just being at the wrong gate. And when you're traveling and you especially see that like no one else is at the same gate or terminal as you, that's a good sign that you should probably go ask someone if the gate has changed. That's happened to me before and it took me a little bit of time, but once I realized like, hey, nobody else is here, I can't be the only person on this plane, I went around to ask and I found out that my gate had changed. And the final travel lesson that I would say, and this one of course it always depends on your preference and your budget, but I would recommend, especially if you're like traveling, like let's say you're traveling from home to somewhere and maybe you need to, you'll be away for a certain amount of time. Compare the price of taking like an Uber or Lyft to the airport versus parking at the airport. Within the past year and some change, I would definitely say that there's been at least a couple of instances where I recognize that had I taken an Uber to or from the airport, it probably would have been a lot faster than driving, parking in a garage and doing, you know, all those extra things. Now, of course, if you're parking on a garage, like directly at the airport, like right next to the airport, that's a little bit different. But, you know, a lot of airports do have long-term parking, which is a little bit further from the airport. So make sure that you do the numbers crunching, the time crunching as well to figure out what's going to be most worth it for you. Now, as I said, these are some of the travel lessons that I've learned the hard way. And thankfully, not all of them have been like truly the hard way. But there are travel lessons that I've learned and I try my best to make sure that I don't have to learn again. I hope this video has been helpful. Let me know in the comments what travel lessons you might have learned the hard way. As always, please make sure to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to my channel for more travel, career, and general living tips. See you next time.